I want to take a few minutes to talk about creating a form tag using ASP.NET Razor syntax. This is raw HTML. What it does is it says I have a drop down, which is a select tag, and I have an end select tag. Inside of that drop down, I'll have 3 options. And when somebody clicks the submit button, it's going to submit this form, this HTML form, with the values of whatever they chose. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to run this HTML code. And I'm going to see the output here. I have a select box or a drop-down box. Inside of it I have 3 options: Broncos, Raiders, and Steelers. And I have a submit button. And what happens when somebody clicks that submit button, because it's wrapped in a form, because the drop down and the submit button are wrapped in a form tag, it's going to send to the server the value, this value attribute. It's going to send in one of these strings, Denver or Oakland or Pittsburgh, depending on which option I chose. So if I chose the Broncos and I click submit, what is going to be sent back to the server is the value, the information of Denver. It's going to say value is Denver. So the server will be told I chose an option that had the value of Denver when I selected the Broncos from my list. I want to replace this form tag with ASP.NET's Razor code for this form tag. I'm in a CSHTML file. As you can see up here in my tab, it says CSHTML, and that means C# HTML. And I can use Razor. If I have that, then I can use Razor inside. Now this, what I'm about to show you, isn't HTML. It is code that will generate or make HTML. So I'm going to get rid of the form tags, and I'm going to replace those form tags with Razor. And the way you do that is you start with an ampersand or an @ sign and a brace, an open brace right here, right after the @ sign, and a close brace. Everything inside of these braces now will be Razor code. So what I'm going to say is, for the Razor code, I have a lot of stuff I can use. One of them is HTML. This is just the class that somebody made, HTML dot begin form. And it's a function, so I end it with an open and close set of parentheses and a semicolon. It's very syntactically close, if not exactly close, to the type of syntax I would write in C#. It just happens to be inside of these indicators that I'm going to be writing Razor. So regardless of what this other stuff does, I'm going to make some spaces just so that we can focus in on this part right here. It has an @ sign. That means there's going to be some Razor coming. I have this open brace. I have this closed brace. So I have the open brace on line 7, the closed brace on line 9, and inside of it I can only write Razor markup. So let's see what happens when I run this code, this Razor code, as part of my overall web page. I'm going to clean up my code a little bit by getting rid of the multiple concurrent lines, blank lines. and reformat it. And because I have just one line of razor, for just simplicity's sake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it up a line. And I'm also going to move its closing up to the same line. So I have this one line of razor. And I'm going to copy that whole line, line 3, and I'm going to paste a duplicate line of it on line 10. But instead of begin form, I'm going to use HTML.end form. And it's a function as well. So lines 1 and 2 are raw HTML. So is lines 4 through 9 and 11 and 12. Lines 10 and lines 3 are razor. So I'm going to click save, and I'm going to go ahead and run my code again. I'm just going to refresh. You didn't notice it. There's no difference in the look of my web page. But I'm going to right click and click view source. One of the things I noticed right away is it put in this form tag for me. Here's my begin form tag. It's got some extra attributes that it added. We'll talk about those here in a second. But without those, it would have just been a plain form tag. And my end form tag is down here. Even though I didn't really write those HTML tags in here anymore, I don't have, or these form tag in here anymore. Nowhere on this page over here do you see the open form tag or the close form tag. You see razor saying, hey, this is where a form begins, and here's where the form ends. Everything in between is what I want to wrap with that form. It output to the browser an actual form tag. It dynamically created these form tags using this razor markup, even though I didn't actually put the form tags in my page. Now, only ASP.NET pages do this razor style syntax. Normal HTML wouldn't have it. This is actually code that is ran on the server, on the web server, the server hosting my web page, before it actually gets spit out or rendered to the browser. The browser never saw this. The browser didn't translate this code into form tags. The web server that this page sits on, is served up from, said, before I send this page out to the browser for people to see it, I'm going to execute these lines of code on the server, and whatever HTML it renders is what I will send back to the browser. So my browser only thought that I coded these form tags. Now the action on the form tag says, if somebody clicked the submit button, which we know there's a submit button on our page, if somebody clicked that submit button, where do I want to know what page do I need to send this information to? What choice they made. So somebody selected the raters and they clicked the submit button. I want them to send that choice, Oakland, to this page. And actually this is a controller method. If you're familiar with MVC pattern, I have a home controller over here, and I'll show you the code. This is a lot of C# here, but I have an index method on my home controller, and what I have, and this, if I tried to access this controller, this method, I would use this path, home for my home controller, index for my view. That's not really pertinent to this video, but the real purpose was to say, if you use this razor syntax, it would all automatically generate form tags for you. if somebody were to say, replace your form tags with razor markup, this is a style you would use of beginning and ending a form with razor that would generate this open form tag and this closed form tag. I hope that helps make sense of this, how to generate this form tag using ASP.NET MVC and its razor markup.